It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Oh my goodness. I just have to take a deep breath, and I want to thank the listeners and every single person who has shared this day, this special day with me. This woman here is ending. It's such a, not a coincidence, but it's like a coincidence because Linda Sunshine started and you're ending it. So it's like, peanut butter and jelly. No, I'm joking.
There you go.
I love it. So if you're listening in, which I know you are, just what do I say in this moment? I'll say, buckle your seatbelts because we are about to go for a ride with this amazing woman. I'm excited to just share this space. I know a little bit about you, but just having this time together to learn more, all of the amazing work that you're doing, I know that I'm going to be inspired, and the listeners as well will be inspired. So, Mrs. Sally Green, we have you on Sheba Shares. You have agreed and made a decision to share my birthday with me. So you have went up levels. You have went up levels, and I'm so excited. So share with us who you are, where you're from, just whatever you want to share to open up our show today.
Well, I'm so happy that you asked me, and us Sagittarius girls have to stick together. My birthday's in a couple of weeks, so yeah, I love it. And so I'm the vice president of Action Takers Publishing. This is something new to me just in the last couple of years. I've been on this journey, and I'm just having a blast. I'm just having so much fun doing this. I live here in Connecticut with my husband. I have a 27-year-old daughter who's a school teacher. Ooh. And so, here I was, this mom from Connecticut, and I got the opportunity to write a chapter in a collaboration book during COVID, and I raised my hand and said yes, and it changed everything for me. And so that's what got me started. I was in this book. It was called One Habit for Entrepreneurial Success. My husband and I have owned a small cleaning and janitorial company for a number of years, and so I wrote a chapter in that book, and I quickly realized that I was totally out of my element because here I was thrown into this book with all of these big actors and business people who were very highly successful, and here I am, and so I started reaching out to them. I was like, you know what, I need to leverage this opportunity, and I just started reaching out to them, and now we have this thing in common. So I was just, hey, I'm in this book with you. What are you working on? What are you doing? What can I support you on? Facebook friend. I think I went and Facebook friended everybody in the book, and there were 150 authors in this book. It was a huge book, right?
Oh wow!
So I started Facebook friending them and just messaging them on the side. I started showing up at their event. This was during COVID, so everyone was doing the Zoom events.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They'd invite me, and I'd show up and I'd ask questions because I'm like, I want them to know who I am.
That's right.
I want to be seen. And so, I started doing it. And one of the people that I met through that book was Linda, and she had a mastermind that she was doing on Saturday mornings. I started showing up for the masterminds, and then she had offered a business masterclass to help grow your business. And so I signed up and registered for that, and I started working with her to create a coaching business. And so I started doing that with her in just January of 2 years ago. We worked for 9 months together, and she offered me she had been doing the publishing, and she was putting together 2 books at that time, and asked me if I would be in her collaboration books. So I did those 2. And I was like, I just have so much fun working with her. I had so much fun doing it. And afterwards, she reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want to do this as a business with me and do it
Wow.
together?"
I mean, just that short account of there's so much that I took from that moment. Just first, I mean, you're fearless. Just I know, like that little, what we would think of that little thing. Like, I mean, who does that? Who does that? Like, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna make sure people see me. They know my name. But one of the things that I love, even funny enough, because Linda actually shared this story a little bit as well. Is this idea that is something that I hold dear to my heart is what am I? It's almost like you position yourself to help others, right? To push their vision and to encourage them, and you never know where it would lead you, because
Mhm.
that's really what it was. It's like a collaboration, it's business, but how can I help you with your vision and making your business better or making your, and then boom, vice president, you know what I mean? So that's
Right.
really
Yeah.
like inspiring in itself, to do that. So what was it like? Was there anything like, what was it? What was that driving, force or moment for you?
Well, it was that little voice in my head that just kept telling me to do. And I say it's God,
Yes, sir.
but it was just that nagging voice in my head saying, reach out to these people, reach out to these people. I would read the chapter and say, I like this person. I'm gonna, reach out to them. And I would reach out to them. And there were a whole bunch of people in the book, but Linda, I really resonated with, so
Yeah.
but
Probably that
and there's still a lot of people that I'm connected with from that book that I call on the phone and hey, how's it going? And there's a whole group of maybe 9, 10, maybe a little bit more of us that were in that book together that we
Mhm.
kind of stay connected, and it's just really nice. It's nice to have that community and to build that. And like I said, I don't know what drove me. I say it's my little God voice inside
That's
of me
right.
that was
Yep, yep.
telling me to, okay, do this, do this, do this. And I listened to it.
Mhm.
It's been something that I've done for a number of years that, I recognize that voice, and then I'm like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and that's it. Like you just do it.
right,
Just do it.
right.
Just do it. You have the power to make a decision, and whatever the outcome is, it just do it. And you have to continue in that vein, if I can say, or pivot. The choice
Mhm.
is totally up to you. So I mean, and you talk a lot about sharing stories, and this, I'm actually becoming aware. Usually, I either speak or um, and the MC at this women's conference, right? And it's called Triple Share. And that's really where I begin to understand the power of sharing your story. Like when I tell you the women, they're crying and I'm looking like, what, like, whoa. And the visionary of that women's conference, she always says that, you should never allow your pain to kind of go for nothing or to be not like for you to share because you never know whose life will be changed literally upside down, who need that. Sometimes they live through it and they have the tools that they need in order for them to change the trajectory of their lives. And so I love that that's a work and a ministry in itself, because what you're doing is it's almost like this cycle of beginning, middle, end. So you're pumping them up, preparing them, like, empowering them, your story, it does matter. And then you're, putting them in the middle part where they're writing it and you're, encouraging them. And then the end, boom. Like, have you ever thought that you would be an author? So what is that process for you? What does it feel like? Just share your experience.
Yeah, I never thought I had a story. I always thought, here I'm kind of boring,
Mhm.
and nobody wants to hear my story, and that, and it when I first my first chapter that I wrote was Do It Afraid, and I talk about because it was funny because I had watched a Hallmark movie and that was part of the thing was the girl was afraid to do something and they were like, do it afraid. I was like, that's kind of been what I'm stepping into, is doing things that I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
And And you know, like I said, that voice is, you know, kind of pushes me forward and says, all right, you can do this. And you know, sharing my story was scary. Especially, you know, when you're sharing parts of you that you don't want other people to
Right.
know about, you
Yes.
know, or
Yeah.
parts of you, that things that happened in the past that are still hurt.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote for a book, the book that Linda had was called Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore. And it was women who felt invisible and stepping into your power. And part of that was, you know, the story that I chose to write about was, you know, when I was in junior high school and being bullied. And all of the stuff that I went through and the depression and how that stayed with me for years and years.
Yeah.
And to actually hit that submit button and send it off to her was a real struggle. And here, you know, it's 40, 50 years later, and I'm still feeling it, you know, and I was like, why is this still holding on to me? You know, I'm letting a bunch of 12-year-olds, you know, still affect my life. And so
Right. Yeah, I mean, those early tender years, as they say, it shows up in your adulthood. You know, it shows up in your adulthood. And I mean, I had an experience too where I thought I was just over it, it's behind me, and you know, and then I had to have one of what my pastor calls a difficult conversation. And some of the emotions came, and I'm like, wait a minute, you know, what just happened? I'm thinking, move past this, I'm in a different place, and literally I am. You know, but I personally believe in, of course, you can definitely expound on this, that your story will always be a part of you. It will always be a part of you. You know, now how you relate to it or how it affects you, you know, might change, but that will always be a part of, you know, who you are and your journey, your life, and so forth and so on. And so I know you said that you're a vice president. So share with us, what is it like to be, I mean, you know, you might have women who have considered that, or even men, whoever's listening, who have considered, you know what, maybe I should do publishing, or maybe I shouldn't do publishing. So, you know, share some tips. What is it to be in the life of the vice president?
well, you know, it's so much fun, and it's so much fun working with Linda. Her and I get along so well. We do these almost, you know, probably 3 or 4 times a week, our little work parties where we get on the computer and we, you know, on a Zoom call, and we're back and forth, and have you worked on this, and what's going on with this book, and have you talked to this author, and we go back and forth.
Right.
So, I mean, it's you know, it's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't see. You know, we're collaborating on the books, we're collaborating with the authors, we're figuring out, you know, what our next steps are, what she's going to be working on, so we're not doubling up on stuff. So and you know, we kind of each have our own little thing that we do and what works best for us, and it's figuring that out. It's taken us a while to figure out, you know, what she's good at, and okay, this is where you shine, and this is where I shine, and this is what I should be doing. And then, okay, where is it that, you know, both of us need our kind of, you know, and what happens is, like, because we're both very creative.
Oh, I love it.
You know, so the details tend to get, you know, pushed aside because because we get lost in, like, you know, she'll say, okay, you got to make sure that I do this, and then we get on a tangent and we go off into somewhere else, and we got to rein each other back in.
Bring it back.
She's like, this isn't what we, you know, we just spent 2 hours. We just did that the other night. We spent 2 hours on the phone, and she's like, this is nothing what we were, you know, at the end, this isn't what we were supposed to be doing. You know, like, oh yeah, we were supposed to.
So you know what you might have to do? You might have to come with an agenda, right?
Yeah. But you know, but we're figuring it out as we go along, and that's the best part of it. And then, yeah, you know, we're growing, we're learning, and so, you know, she's been doing it a lot longer than I have. She's been doing this for, you know, 5-7 years already.
Wow. Yeah.
And I've only, you know, this is my first year. So I'm learning a lot from her, and she's learning a lot from me. You know, I'm kind of her spiritual leader. And leading her in that direction, and she's kind of my business, you know, teaching me a lot of the business stuff. So, you know, it's it's a give and take, and I'm just loving working with her and loving doing this publishing, because, you know, like you said, you're getting the stories out there, and working with and that's my passion, is to work with the authors. You know, I was on a phone call yesterday with a woman, and she wrote her story, and she was like, I don't know about this. And so I said, all right, let's hop on a call. And we hopped on a call. We were on for almost an hour, and we're dissecting her story and going through it. And she right before I hopped on, she messaged me and she said, thank you so much. I was able to go back and finish it. And I absolutely love it now. So, you know, that's what brings me joy. That's what makes me happy. And knowing, you know, and I doubt myself still.
Yeah.
You know, I get on these calls and I'm like, can I help them? You know, who am I? And then, you know, and then that happens, and I'm like, all right, God, I'm here.
You got something. That's right. You
got this. We can do it. You know?
You got this, because you're not alone when you're doing it.
Yeah.
Somebody backing you up. That's right.
Exactly.
And he already endorsed you, that you are capable of. I love that. You know, so I know we you know, had some exchange before, and I'm like, well, what would the topic of your title be? And you said, becoming a self-care rock star. I was like, because I was speaking, I'm always talking to hello, but I was speaking to someone, I think it was last week, and what she said, and it resonated with me. She said, you know, self-care is beyond baths, you know, and I was like, you know what? That's true. It's beyond the baths and, oh, let me get a manicure and pedicure. So what is self-care to you? If, you know, would it share, if you said, and then how do we become a rock star of that?
Well, I got to tell you that, I mean, that's what, you know, propelled me. And that's what Linda was working with me on. Part of COVID, when COVID happened, I had just lost one of my big accounts in my cleaning business. And I looked in the mirror and I realized that, you know, financially now I'm a mess. Physically, I was a mess. I was 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And emotionally, I was a wreck. And I was just like all over the place. And I looked in the mirror and I said, you're a mess. Something needs to change, because if you keep going in this direction, you're going to get to the point very soon where you're not going to be able to get out of it. You know, so, so I said, that's it. I hit rock bottom, and, you know, I started eating healthier. I went to my daughter and my husband, said we got to do something differently. We started walking. And I really just focused on what I was putting into my body. I shut off the TV. I started taking online classes, and it wasn't that, this was suddenly, it was little things over a period of probably 8-9 months. Right. You know, that I kept just adding a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. I'd start meditating in the morning. I'd be drinking tea, you know, at night instead of, having a glass of wine. And so it was just all kinds of different things that I was changing those habits and making a difference. And so I was in a Zoom room and someone said, hey, I was telling them what I was doing. They're like, you're a rock star. That night I went to sleep, and when I woke up, and I'm like, the self-care rock star. That's what I'm going to call myself, you know? So I went and I called Linda, and because we were working on our business thing. And I was like, I want to be a business coach or some kind of a coach to help women. And I said, I want to teach people how to become a self-care rock star. Right. And do what I've been doing for the last year and a half. So I put a program, her and I worked together. I put a program together. I was doing all that. I was on YouTube. I was interviewing people. And yeah, so that was my whole, become a self-care rock star.
You know, wow. I love that. And I've never, ever, ever heard anyone explain it that way. And the one thing that I just keep hearing is self-care is making those little changes. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I mean, yeah, you know, you have the baths and this, but it's making those little changes in whatever area that you see that there's a need, basically, you know. So I've never, ever heard it like that before. I've seen self-care packages, and you have, like you said, the candy, the wine, the movie, the massage, and yeah, that's a form of it, but it's not. It's a full package or full meaning, and I've learned something. I've learned something. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, one of the things really early on, I was listening to Les Brown. I don't know if you Les Brown, the motivational speaker. Yes. He talked about keeping your cup filled to overflowing. It's in the Bible,
Yep.
and his thing was, you keep your cup filled to overflowing, and you only give to other people from that overflow. You constantly keep your cup filled.
Right.
And I'm sitting there listening to this, and I'm like, I've been doing this wrong all my life.
Yes.
I give and give and give until my cup is almost empty.
Right.
And then I take a nap and I get up and I fill my cup to the point where maybe it's overflowing a little. And then I give and give and give and give again until it's almost empty,
Right.
and until I'm exhausted and can't do anything and can't think, and then just give enough to myself to fill it up again. And I was like, wow, I've been doing this wrong, So that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to fill up my brain. I'm going to fill up my heart. I'm going to fill up my, it wasn't just my physical body. It was everything. I shut off the television. I haven't watched television in over 2.5 years.
Wow.
I'm like, I've stopped I was watching movies. I even stopped the movies. So, but I was, shut off and I was a huge television, but I just went cold turkey. And just shut it all off. And so I was like, I got to make sure that the stuff going into my head is right, because it's that garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So you got to watch what you're listening to, what you're saying, and changing your thinking, and doing the meditations, and doing the affirmations and things like that, and just the prayer, and then listening and stopping and listening, and not just always having to be the one talking.
Right. Oh my goodness, I love that. I know the listeners are just like, whoa, whoa. That's so, yeah, I didn't even know it was going to go in this direction, to be honest with you, but I love it.
You never know where it's going with me.
You never know, right? I love how it's flowing. I love how it's flowing. I love how it's flowing. And I know that you mentioned, you're not really fully aware of what's next, or, and I know that there's plenty of books that you all are publishing, but as far as you, Sally, right? What's next for you, just as maybe a wife or a mother, or, I think that you have a business outside of, the action taker. So what do you, what do you do, or what's near and dear to your heart? Or,
Well, I'll tell you, my husband just this weekend had a stroke. And so we're really rethinking of, I think we're at a pivotal point right now, and thinking about, okay, what's our future going to look like? What are we going to do? I mean, him and I have had this cleaning company for a number of years, and I really love the publishing. I would love to do that full time, because I've been doing part-time on both.
Yeah, I get it.
So Linda and I are talking about both of us going full time with the publishing, and really going full force with it. And so that's kind of the direction I want to go. I've talked to Linda about because I stopped doing the Self-Care Rockstar stuff when we started publishing.
Okay.
And I said, I miss it. I really want to go back to that. So we're talking about starting up the Self-Care Rockstar show again that I was doing. And then maybe doing a book, becoming a self-care rock star, and inviting people to do a collaboration book with me. So that's that's my working title. We've been, it's something we've been behind the scenes talking about just these last couple of days. So I'm putting it out there. I'm manifesting it.
Yes, of course you are, because I don't know if you've ever, or maybe you haven't even thought about this, but the thing, and I don't know if this is my place to even say this, but I feel as if what connects you and Linda Sunshine is intentionality. Like when you said, I'm going on Facebook, Facebook friending, and making those connections, and then excuse me, even what she and I spoke about, whether it be Facebook Messenger, or just even on this podcast, and I'm like, and you're so intentional. Like, everything she does is intentional, and everything you do is intentional. So I think that's what brings your connection together and solidifies it. And I absolutely love it and respect it. And then even to know that, and don't mind me if I'm putting your tea out there, that you two just met recently. So it shows the power, COVID, we can this is being sarcastic, but we can brag, so to speak, about COVID and all that it's done and didn't do, but there is some great things that came out of COVID, making that connection and connecting. I mean, technology, there's a lot of opinions about technology, but when it's used for moments like this, right? Intentional moments, impactful influence. I mean, technology, I have to, give it its accolades, so I think that's just absolutely amazing. But I was like, wait, they never met before, it was just like, what? That should be a anthology book in itself, people that you've connected with. So that was just absolutely amazing. I know you was going to say something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we just got to meet actually in person just this past September for the very first time, after working together. So I was able to fly out to Las Vegas and hang out with her for a weekend. And so that was a lot of fun. And that was the first time I'd even been on an airplane in 26 years.
What? Wow.
So there's the power of God right there,
right.
We've been working and we haven't, any of our vacations have been just locally, we drive to Vermont or drive to New York or whatever to do our vacations. So it wasn't, we didn't have the money to fly on a big vacation, or we just do a staycation and just stay home. So going anywhere was never on my radar.
Right. I understand. That's amazing.
When we started working together, I'm like, I got to find a way to get there and see her.
I love it. I think, and I'm almost certain that you would agree that I believe that each of you to one another, you're each other's destiny helper. I don't. Have you heard that term before? Yeah, destiny. So if it's being that you are in this space and you've made this connection, how would you share with the listeners? How do you identify someone who is your destiny helper? How do you identify that?
I think if you meet somebody and you have that instant connection. I mean, when I started going to her online events and listening to her speak, I was like, I really like this person. I really like, and I, and I would just say, you know what? I want to just keep going here. I want to keep being around her and seeing the things that she was doing. And I think she kind of felt the same way. And I know she was struggling spiritually. I've been a Sunday school teacher and a women's Bible study leader. I'm a lay speaker in my church.
That's right.
And so, spiritually, I've been there for a long time. Right. And she's kind of just starting there, and so, we've had a lot of discussion when we were at first, we'd be talking more like the spiritual side, and then she was helping me more with like the business end. So it was like we were just both giving, and I think that's where the destiny thing happens, is if you can both give something to each other. I think that's where the magic happens.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it.
The God winks, right?
Yes, I love it. So what is your secret? What is your secret to doing all that you do? And then how can anyone says, you know what, I need to connect with her. I need to connect with her. How did they get involved with publishing books? Whether it be publishing books or being a part of a collaboration book.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if anybody wants to connect with me, you just go to hellosallygreen.com. You can get on my calendar, and I'd love to hop on a call and just go over everything, talk about what we have working on, what we're working on. Tell me your story, and I can tell you what book it'll fit into, because we have books for just about everything coming up now. And if we don't have one, we'll create one for you.
Right, exactly. I'm like, just create it. Oh my goodness, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I really appreciate this time. I'm basking in this self-care. I'm telling you, it's like you just blew my mind with that self-care So I'm hoping that you're able to balance it all and do it because it's needed. It's beyond, like I said, it's beyond a bath. It's beyond lighting a candle.
And you know what? My self-care didn't consist of any of that. I don't think I did my nails. I didn't do my face. I didn't do anything that, I mean, I stopped putting makeup on.
Right.
Because I was like, you know what? That's just surface stuff. I don't need the surface stuff. I need the inner stuff.
Inside. That's right.
Exactly.
So that is so amazing. So Sally, thank you so much for spending this time with me. It has been absolutely amazing. Not only just a normal day, but it's my birthday.
I know. So
yeah, thank you. And I'm hoping that if you're listening, you will find a way to connect. I was a part of a collaboration book. The process, the experience is amazing. It's seamless, like literally you don't even have to think about anything. You just submit your story, be there, plug in, get excited, support the work and just benefit from this community. Like, it's not just about the book, but it's about this community that you are connecting women with. And that to me is what sets you apart from other publishing companies, And so I love it. I love it. Connect with Sally. Please, please, please connect. And if you're listening, if you want to be a part, feel free to reach out to me. On Facebook, I'm Sheba Empowers. On Instagram, I'm Sheba with double A because Instagram is interesting. Empowers. Or you can email me at shebaempowerment@gmail.com. Thank you so much again for your time. And until next time, peace.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.